He's pulling his cock out. He's pulling his cock out? He's pulling his cock out. He's pulling his cock out. He's pulling his cock out. Now your turn.
He's pulling his cock out.
And here's to the beginning.
I'll drink to that.
Why, Johnny Ringo.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can change it at any time.
I'm your huckleberry.
Outlaw loose and running came the whisper from each lip, and he's here to do some business with the big iron on his hip.
Incoming the Rambling Podcast, with your hosts, Conway Titty, and Stony Robbins.
Howdy, hey, cowpokes, and welcome back to another episode of the Ramblin' Podcast. I'm your host, Conway Titty. Joined with me is
Stony Robbins.
Stony Robbins. Robbins of Stony. And we are back again, piercing your ear holes with another episode. This time we are continuing our Sexual Deviants of History series, which honestly is a lot of fun. It's really kind of crazy to get to know the in-depths of fetishes, kinks, situations that a lot of world-renowned humans have, especially ones that are in the 1800s, 1700s. Anything that just early is just a whirlwind of information. And today's episode is no short of whirlwinds. Holy fuck. While I was doing this research topic, it gets crazy, Stoney. It gets pretty crazy.
How crazy does it get?
Well, you guys are just gonna have to wait to find out. But as always, we appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to us. I hope you guys enjoyed our high school series that we just got done with last week. We did freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. Each has their own episode, and they're quite lengthy. Me and Stoney tell a bunch of stories and reminisce on high school days that we wish now we don't have to think about it anymore. Just now.
Correct.
We
Don't
did
ever have
that.
to think about high school ever again.
We did that, talked about it, and now we don't have to bring it up anymore. But I do enjoy moving on to different series, and a research episode is always like a script/research episode is always a little easier on Stoney and I, especially on Stoney's big brain over there. All he has to do is read. And sometimes it's a little difficult, but it's not as hard as him having to think and then be like, I don't know what to talk about.
I feel like I do better on these ones anyway.
Yeah, I think you do too. I just think they're more fun. They're always interesting topics, but this one's pretty crazy. So today we are going to be talking about Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. If you guys don't know who that is, you probably lived under a rock, or you didn't get very much education, or just you don't exist as a human, because he's basically why music is so good today is literally because of this person. And we are going to dive deep into Mozart's crazy fetishes, I should say, and kinks and sex stories and just his art and music in general. So if you're not into any of that type of shit, feel free to just skip this episode. Other than that, sit back, relax, and enjoy as we dive into Mr. Mozart and his
Mr. Mozart.
and his craziness. Stoney has not really read this either, so he's gonna be like, what the fuck, along with you guys. As always, I like to give you guys sources. I'm not just pulling this out of my ass and making shit up. I do try to cite as much as possible. So our sources today are Britannica, the classical music biographies, the Opera Phila, Mozart's Scatological Disorder by Benjamin Simkin, and the American Psychological Association. So we do
Way to kind of give it away a little bit.
we have, it's a little sneaky peek, but we have quite a extensive research amongst most historians too. This isn't a lot of the topics we're going to be talking about today. is well known by historians, especially musical historians or historians of the 16 and 1700s. It's quite a common theme, I should say. And we'll go ahead and dive right in. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, an Austrian composer, also known as Johannes Christophermus Wolfgang Amadeus Theophilus Mozart. That is his full name, and that is an absolute mouthful. And trying to read someone who has multiple middle names is always difficult because honestly, why? Why do you need to have a trillion things in between your first and last name? It's very annoying on birth certificates and literally any other documentation. Why do we need that?
Well, a lot of it's all honorifics and honoring certain people that are dead because you have my name, your dad's name, your mom's name,
Well, too
your
bad. Too
18th
bad.
cousin's name.
Too bad. You get 3, maybe 4 max.
Yeah, anything over
Otherwise,
that's kind of insane.
god dang. Imagine
6
trying to be
names.
a kid
6.
trying to say all that. Holy
Yeah,
shit.
imagine trying to have to learn how to spell that. Christosimus, really?
Christosimus. Johannes Christosimus Wolfgang Amadeus Theophilus Mozart.
And we're probably saying half of it wrong anyway. Who
No,
cares?
I looked at the pronunciation. I did practice. I did practice.
Amadeus.
Guys, I did practice.
There's a
So
reason why people only say 3 of his names.
very true. So that is technically his baptized full name.
His Christian
like,
name.
Technically. So Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is like how everyone knows him, but that full name is his like baptized religious name that he goes fully by. But anyways, he is widely recognized as one of the greatest composers in the history of Western music and was arguably the most gifted musician in the history of classical music. His inspiration is often described as divine, but he worked assiduously not only to become the great composer he was, but also as a conductor, a virtuoso, a pianist, an organist, and a violinist.
Okay.
Not only with his long ass name, he has a million other bells and whistles that he can do. He has so much that he has and is known for. It's kind of crazy that it's his name does match his abilities. And it's his story. If you guys, like I said, if you don't know anything about Mozart, you're learning today with us. But an extraordinary kind of one in a million person. I mean, there was composers throughout all the centuries. I mean, music's growing and becoming its own thing, but just it's insane how prominent Mozart became even at such a young age. So Mozart's music embraces the opera, symphony, concerto, chamber, choral, and like instrumental. Most of it kind of deals with vocal music, but a lot of his music really kind of sticks to just instrumental. And he would also, while he was doing all the composing, he made certain music for certain people who had certain voices. And like there's just like a huge, you can go, I mean, people do entire degrees just on, even just classical music, but I know people that have do their entire senior thesis and a bunch of other things strictly on Mozart because it is he's such an in-depth character. But he has released such an astonishing number of basically they are masterpieces. They are considered masterpieces. And he's composed over 600 works, which include some of the most famous and loved pieces of symphonic, chamber, and operatic and choral music. So most of the stuff that I'm sure that if you've gone to an opera or heard classical music, it's Mozart first. I know Beethoven's up there and Bach's really up there, but Mozart is like king of them all.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart was born on January 27th, 1756, in the Archbishopric of Salzburg, now known as Austria. Mozart was born into a musical family. His father, Leopold, came from the family of good standing from which he was estranged, which included architects and bookbinders. Leopold was the author of a famous violin playing manual, which was published in the very year of Mozart's birth. His mother, Anna Marie Pertl, was born of a middle-class family active in local administration. Mozart and his sister Maria Anna were the only two of their 7 children to survive.
That's also insane. This is we talked about this with Benny Frank.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
fact
it's
that they
around
were
that time where you just have 8 kids and hopefully 2 of them live.
What was Benny Frank was like 13, right? He had
Yeah, like
he was one of 13 or
of
something.
one of 37 or
And this
whatever.
this is before, so like Benny Frank's like a full adult by this time too. So yeah, one of like 13 children. So yeah, this is also 2 of 7 to survive. Fucking
Yeah,
1700s childbirth.
People back
God.
then just be fucking.
Well, what else is to do? They needed
Yeah.
kids to work.
Oh, there's no lights. As soon as the sun goes down, you just fuck, I guess,
Just
and
fuck.
sit by candlelight.
Apparently.
The boy's early talent for music was remarkable. At 3, he was picking out chords on his harpsichord. At 4, playing short pieces. By the age of 5, he could read and write music. And he would entertain people with his talents on the keyboard. By the age of 6, he was writing his first compositions. Mozart was generally considered to be a rare musical genius. In 1762, Leopold presented his son as performer at the imperial court in Vienna, Austria. And from 1763 to 1766, he escorted both children on a continuous musical tour across Europe, which included long stays in Paris, France, and London, England, as well as visits to many other cities with appearances before the French and English royal families. Mozart was the most famous celebrated child prodigy of his time as a keyboard performer. He also made a great impression as a composer and improviser. In London, he won the admiration of musician Johann Christian Bach, and he was exposed from a very early age to an unusual variety of musical styles and tastes across Europe.
Around this time, too, it was Johann Sebastian Bach, which was the son of Johann Christian Bach. He's also a very well-known musician, I guess, and composer, whatever you want to call them. And him and Mozart were very much kind of not together, but they're around the same time. And then you also have Beethoven, Beethoven at this time is older. So while Mozart's like fucking 5 and pulling out these insane masterpieces at that age, Beethoven's in like his 30s or 40s or something like that already, and he's super jealous. If you guys have never seen the movie Amadeus, it's a really good movie. I know it's like 3 fucking hours long, but it's so worth it. It's in my top movies for sure. It's such a good movie to watch. But it really plays into that jealousy a lot, and you'll get to know more of the kind of character that Mozart was personality wise, because it's very on point and quite accurate. So from the age of 10 to 17, Mozart's reputation as a composer grew to a degree of maturity equal to that of most older established musicians. Beethoven, for what I was, as an example that I was talking about. He spent the years from 1766 to 1769 at Salzburg writing instrumental works and music for the school dramas in German and in Latin, which is also crazy. You think about it. This kid is writing these insane musical, just unheard of music, right? Just unfucking heard of. And he's also writing it in like multiple languages. In 1768, he produced his first real operas, the German Singspiel, that is with spoken dialogue, Bastien und Bastan. Despite his growing reputation, Mozart found no suitable post open to him, and his father once more escorted Mozart away. So at the age of 14 in 1769, they set off for Italy to try and make his way as like an opera composer. However, Paris was vastly a larger theater for Mozart's talents, so this was a big step from just playing for kind of like royal courts and mainly staying in Vienna. This is like their first jump in traveling. His father urged him to go there for, quote, "From Paris, the fame of a man of great talent echoes through the whole world." And around this time, Paris was really a huge hub for cultural experiences, whether it be fashion or baking and cooking and music, especially music. So Paris was like the place to be. But after 9 difficult months in Paris, from March 1778 to January 1779, Mozart returned once more to Salzburg, having been unable to secure a foothold, and he was super depressed by the entire experience, which also included the death of his mother pretty much in the middle of his stay in Paris. So that kind of really just, I mean, would put a hinder in anybody's confidence and abilities, and like that's just a big upsetting moment too. So, unable to get hired for an opera, he wrote music to order in Paris. And again, mainly for wind instruments. Also, if we ever pronounce anything wrong, just know a lot of this is like French and German and Latin
And
we are
Austrian.
and Austrian, and we are not fluent in any of this, so bear with us. So, the Sinfonia Concertante, the 4 solo wind instruments, and an orchestra, the concerto for the flute and harp and other chamber music, and the ballet music Les Petites Reines. That's all. That's so much. And like I said, he's barely 17 at this point. He's like getting there. You know what I mean? Like he's not he's not in his 30s or 40s like, some of these other composers, and, like, everyone's being so mind blown by this because he is a one in a million
Yeah,
creator.
I mean, this dude's like 17
It's
and
crazy.
he's, writing things that are considered some of the greatest pieces in history.
Yeah, literally. What are we? It's a what are we
Widowy
Mozart? What are we
Widowy
Wolfgang?
Mozart is Widowy kind of the best musician ever.
He's he's great. He's great.
Widowy.
In addition, he began giving lessons to make money, whether it was I don't even know. Imagine getting lessons from Mozart, but not only that, it's like, which lessons do you want to go for? Because he plays like every single fucking instrument.
That's true.
Then in August 1782, he married Constance Weber. The Mozarts' marriage seemed to be a happy one. Constance was easy going, free spending, and usually pregnant. Only 2 of their 6 children survived.
Oh yeah, once again, let's just be pregnant the entire time we know each other.
And also in the Amadeus movie, like I said, it is a good movie. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It is quite entertaining and very well done. You get to see more of their relationship, and a lot of historians kind of focus on his art and his music in general, and leave out a lot of the details of his like marriage and how his wife did. His wife had such, we don't really talk much about it for the rest of the episode, but his wife had such a big art in his music and his relationship with his father, and getting Mozart to become the greatest composer ever. Like, he was already has his own abilities, but his wife really helped him like stay on focus and not be distracted by his horrible dad that like never pretty much never saw him as great anymore. He kind of just like, ignored him. And she saw through like Beethoven's jealousy and a bunch of other stuff. Like, yeah, like I said, watch the movie. It's really well done. Now that we've at least given you guys somewhat of a detailed portion of Mozart's life, let us dive into why we chose Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart to be in our Sexual Deviants of History series. Mozart had many fetishes like any other human in the world, but I'm going to let Stony start into this and tell you why we picked him and why he's so fun to talk about when it comes to sex and sexuality and the kind of life experience that was in the 1700s, much like how Benny Frank was during his time as well.
Mozart had a scatological disorder. According to the American Psychology Association, scatologia is defined as the preoccupation with obscenities, lewdness, and filth, mainly of an excremental nature. The term is derived from the Greek word for dung. In psychoanalytic theory, scatologia is usually associated with anal eroticism, also called scatology. Basically, it's an obsession with poop. So, with all that fancy shit being said, this dude just liked poop. Let's just call it what it is.
Poop and shit and anything to do with
Farting,
asses.
anything
We'll
with
get
a
into it.
butthole
We'll get
involved.
into it.
In today's world of our explicit language and refined olfactory sense, the waste products and secretions of our bodies are locked in the bathroom. Although scatological elements have been found in works of some artists and authors for centuries. Undeniably, the topic of scatology has been treated in highly disparate ways. In a century where we see ourselves improved following the assumptions of linear progression, and have developed some very sophisticated analytical and critical tools for making sense of our world, we have idealized some figures that influence this world to this day. At his 17 years of age, he had already composed 25 symphonies, and yet he also took a joy in writing repugnant jokes about excrement in some letters to friends and family and in a few recreational compositions. In 1992, Benjamin Simkin, an endocrinologist, estimated that almost 39 letters Mozart wrote to various members of the Mozart family included scatological passages. The first group of scatological letters occurred when he was 14 in 1770 after his great success of his first tour in Italy.
Which is typical for a 14-year-old. Poop, farts, butt. You know, like that's sure.
Yeah, I guess if you're
also
gonna,
to, also to
that's an
say
age for it. If you're gonna be making poo-poo jokes, I
like
guess.
12 and 14, right? Also to say 39 out of 371 letters. That's still a very good percentage.
Yeah, 39 letters, including that
Lots.
much.
Not like a little bit, but like
But like
lots.
passages,
Yes,
multiple passages.
we're getting into that. We're getting into that.
A second, more lengthy group of letters occurred between 1777 and 1781, a quite stressful period of the composer's life as a result of his conflict with the Archbishop of Salzburg. Brief reemergences of scatological activity occurred in 1783 with the birth of his first child and in the spring of 1789 when he toured Berlin and other German towns for 8 weeks.
Throughout these letters, Mozart wrote the words shit, arse, muck, piddle or piss, fart, asshole, fondling, kissing, sexual fetish, echolalia, and pretty much other word games multiple times. These were never just casual letters. He was openly and confidently talking about his love for all things butts.
Butts. He liked
The-
butts.
The last blast occurred the last years of his life when he was composing his last two operas and Requiem in Vienna. His letters to his cousin Marie Anna Thekla, Mozart, his cousin, let's make that emphasis on that, often called the Bessel letters, have been much researched and debated about the scatological humor and whether or not Wolfgang had sex with his cousin before he left Augsburg in the autumn of 1777.
Probably. I mean, let's call it what it was. This is the 1700s. The word cousin didn't mean shit. Hell, the word sibling barely meant anything.
True. These letters abound in references to shit on the bed sheets, farts, arse licking, trips to the closet, but the language uses not only scatology as sexual references appear quite often. When Mozart could not be with his cousin in Augsburg, after he spent a pleasant 2 weeks with her cousin in her native town, he wrote many letters to her from Mannheim using explicit sexual and scatological languages. His first letters are sexually charged, but also light and joyful. Here is a little passage from it. Quote, "So if you want to send me a reply from the town of Augsburg there, then write to me in a hurry, so that I will receive your letter, or else I've already been somewhat awakened, instead of a letter. I'll just get muck, 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 oh muck. Oh, sweet word. Muck. Tasty. Also terrific. Muck. Tasty. Muck lick. Oh, charmante. Muck lick. I really like it. Muck. Tasty and lick. Tasty muck and lick muck. Now to get on to something else. During carnival time, did you really live up to it? In Ansburg, one can certainly have much better time of it than here. I really wish I were there with you, so that we could hop about together and do it right. End quote.
What the fuck?
Oh, shit. Literally, holy shit. Emphasis on the shit. If you
Yeah,
guys didn't
that
understand,
makes
muck,
no
muck,
sense.
muck, muck literally is poop. Muck is shit. Also, it's the 1700s, Stoney. Like, come on.
Yeah, I
This
guess.
does make sense. But yeah, muck means shit, poop, feces, whatever you want to say. So we can listen to that back and just put muck and poop in your brain. However, sexual implications, more explicit, turn up elsewhere. Another letter wrote, here we go, another quote. I will then inspect your front and rear. I will take you all around, and if necessary, will enfold you. The only thing I regret is that I can't stay with you. Will fondle your arse, kiss your hands, shoot off my gun in your rear, embrace you, enfold you back and front. End quote.
Shoot off my gun in your rear.
God damn, I like that. I love that little
I'm gonna shoot off my
phrase.
gun.
I love that. I love
I'm
that.
gonna bust a nut in your ass.
Pretty fucking much. And he will inspect you from front to rear.
Oh, he give you a full tuck and tails, huh?
Oh, love it. In another letter to her written on the 5th of November of 1777, Mozart was even coarser. All right, you guys ready for this one? This is one of my favorite ones. Here we go. Quote, you command that I, too, could send you my poor shot. Bien, I shall mail fail it for sure. We, by the love of my skin, I shit on your nose, so it runs down your chin.
What?
End quote.
I want a picture of you, but I'll go ahead and mail it, and then I'll shit down your nose. What?
It basically means I could send you a picture of myself. That's good. That sounds like a good idea. But if I mail it, it will fail and you won't get it in time. Because I need your love now. I want to poop on your face so much that it runs down your chin.
That's something.
Basically what he means. And it concludes with, this is literally how he ended all of his letters. All right, so here we go. Quote, well, I wish you good night. But first, shit into your bed and make it burst. Sleep soundly, my love. Into your mouth, your arse, you'll shove. End quote. That's how he just ends the fucking letter. First off, he writes all that shit, and then he's like, by the way.
He's like, go ahead, shit in your bed and roll around in it, please. I want you to shit in your bed and make it burst.
And let me know how much you love your own poo-poo in your
Poopy,
mouth.
poopy
Your own,
sheets.
basically, when he says into your mouth, your ass you'll shove, it means when you poop, you're basically putting your butt in your face because you can't really physically do that as a human. Dude, if this guy was a monkey, he'd be throwing so much poop.
Yep, he would have done well.
He'd have been a chimpanzee just ripping people's faces off and throwing poop at him. You know?
Yep.
Mozart's love for scatological humor might seem bizarre and vulgar to us today, but people claim, mainly historians, that these letters are epistolary objects emerging from well-known patterns of written and verbal practice in the 18th century, a practice of opposition and defiance not as an indulgence and infantilism, but a transgression into regions of unacceptability. This time frame, it was common. It was so common to have a scat fetish. It was so common to, like we talked to Ben Frank, where Ben Frank had orgies all the time and slept with like mother and daughters. It was so common. There wasn't like this shame that we have nowadays, or they didn't really look as like, they looked at it as part of the human body rather than, oh my God, that's that's only for the bathroom. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it
And
wasn't
times
wasn't
weren't
really
as
how it was viewed.
clean.
Yeah.
Everything smelled a lot. There was a lot of smells during this time. Like, think about it. We didn't really know about germs or
Yeah, and
DNA or
shit was probably the prominent
people
smell.
were shitting in buckets and throwing it off balconies into rivers and into the, basically alleyways. You know what I mean? So this was definitely a time of
Well,
a scat fetish wouldn't be like unheard of. You
I've
know what I
told
mean?
you the theory about, like, having a scat fetish modern day and
Yeah,
why
we
it's
talked about that.
more prominent in the military
We
because you
talked
just
about
smell
that.
shit all the time.
Yeah, we talked about that in if you guys, haven't heard our fetish episodes, Stoney and I dive into a lot of, like, common fetishes, but we really dive into scat fetishes too, and basically, Stoney tells the story of how his theory is that, um, because you're in the military and you're in these, porta potties and you're in hot weather and a bunch of stuff too, you don't really have, like, space to masturbate, so when you are masturbating in these, like, stinky porta potties, and then you eventually, like, start coming to the smell of poop, and then when
Yep.
you get back home overseas, you kinda need the smell of poop to come.
Yep, that is that's a thing.
Scatological elements also appear in his music, which was most likely recreational and shared with his close friends. These compositions are in the form of a canon with employment of vulgar lyrics and were meant to entertain with satire of the religious and ecclesiastic dogmatism and aristocracy. He wrote songs that uncovered his special interest in analingus, not cunnilingus, analingus, or getting licked on the butthole for pleasure, which is also a very common kink and fetish in the world. So there's nothing like
Hashtag eat ass.
go fast, eat ass.
Hashtag live fast, eat
Yes,
ass.
there we go. One song title is Lick mich in Orst, which translates to lick me in the ass, a German idiom for kiss my ass, which is, I feel like totally two different things when you just read them. When you read lick me in the ass versus like kiss me in the ass.
Well, it's different also because it's leck mich, like the ch music.
No,
It's
I'm not
hard to
talking
it's
about
hard to
no, I'm not talking about the pronunciation. I meant like the actual translation from lick me in the ass to kiss my ass. Those are two totally different things to like us.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Kiss
that's
my
also
ass
just
means like
because that's
fuck you, and lick me in the ass is like come lick me in the ass.
yeah, but it's also it's one of those things where it's a very
It's German.
situational.
Yeah, it's German.
It's a yeah, verbal language.
One line of the song reads, "Lick me in the ass, quickly, quickly." That's he says it like when I was looking up the actual like lyrics of it, it said that like 4 times in a row. So like the crowds would cheer and say, "Lick me in the ass, quickly, quickly."
Lick me in the ass, quickly, quickly. Lick me
Love
in the
that.
ass, quick. Bars.
Yeah, exactly. Mozart even reportedly mentioned his butt licking kink in letters to his family. According to most historians, scatological humor in the 18th century was far more public and commonplace. Performing routines common for the Italian genre of codemel dell'arte, such as urinating, excrement throwing, placing one's buttocks in another's face, mixing food with feces, and then like telling of dirty jokes. This was not unheard of. Mozart, living in a society that loved crude jokes and entertainment, was all about howl with laughter. As another person, Hanswurst, he was very well known for like being raunchy as hell. He would like eat a bunch of food, a bunch of like crazy shit, and then he would literally like shit out the food. Um, and he would like, for example, fling giant lumps of his shit for fun. So this Hanswurst guy was very well known for doing that, and it was a comedian, jester of the day, just an entertainer. But yeah, this guy was like fucking crazy, um, just filthy, 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 raunchy as fuck. And that kind of molded Mozart's character and personality. So Mozart was a fan of this Hanswurst guy. When the use of vulgar language was a commonplace and bodily fluids were a part of everyday games and the satirizing of priests and repressive authority. I also do like this part, like minus the bodily fluids and talking about farts and poop and pee. They were making fun of priests and archbishops and the Pope and just religion in general. Like there was a mockery about it too, and I find that just great and hilarious too. So Mozart's scatological expressions in his letters and compositions reflect the degree of influence that Hansworth basically had over him, and it kind of gave him an understanding of like what Mozart's humor was going to become, and that's why it's so prominent in his art and letters, and later in his like 20s and 30s. So, however, the question remains as why Mozart's behavior has upset scholars. What's possibly the most sensible analysis of the matter yet seems to a suggestion that the quote unquote passage of time has created an almost unbridgeable gulf between ourselves and Mozart's time, forcing us to misread his scatological letters even more drastically than his other letters, which is very simply that these letters embarrass us. They really do. And we have tried to like suppress them, trivialize them, and explain them out of its kind of canon with all these excuses that we can think of. Just the poop and the pee and the farts and the butts and the eating ass and the shitting on faces. It was so common at that time that like it is such an like crazy fetish to us in the 21st century when you think about it. Like that's just it's kind of nuts, to be honest. It really is. Just such a commonplace event that everyone went through, which not everyone, but like was just um kind of a release for some people, and Mozart being just this giant, world-renowned human creator genius has one of the quote unquote most embarrassing fetishes and likes that we cannot comprehend it, and so we judge these letters and we judge his art uh with the scat so hard. And we're like, wow, that's so dumb. Why would they talk about that? Why would that be a thing? It doesn't make any sense. Oh, it's maybe because a lot of the theories at first, a lot of people, a lot of historians have like gone back and forth with this debate. When I was reading on this on the topic and everything, we're talking about, oh, maybe Mozart had Tourette's and that's why he like shit in his hand and played with his poop all the time. Maybe he had a personality disorder, and maybe that. It's like no, in reality, it's just that was the times.
He just liked playing with poop.
He just like farts and he just like butts.
He liked playing with poop, man. He was just
There was no reason, just that's fetish. It's a thing he likes, you know? Oh, I also read that he may have also learned it from his parents. His mom and dad had a giant also butt fetish.
Oh, that's
So like I said, it could be just
cool.
commonplace. Just common, right?
I guess, yeah. Hey, we like playing with poop. You should like playing with poop too.
I guess. Remember, fetishes are inherited. It's in your
Yeah.
DNA. It's genetic. Think about that for a second, chat.
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 Google, show me this guy's balls.
Nice. Pewter. How to get
Computer, show me this guy's balls, please.
Pewter, how to get to Joker's cave unharmed. Pewter.
It's like on.
Fucking Lego Batman. All right, continue.
Mozart had a great run of success in his final years. Ein klein Nachtmusik and the Clarinet Quintet in A, 3 of his 41 symphonies, Così fan tutte, 3 piano trios, the Coronation Piano Concerto, 2 piano sonatas, and 3 string quartets. That's a lot of shit to do in a very short amount of time.
His final years.
Yeah, mind you, we're saying final years. This dude died when he was 36.
It's crazy.
So
Final years.
final years at 36, dude. I'd be in my final years
Also,
right now.
not sure what drugs or alcohol or you know what I
No,
mean?
it's not even
But
that. It's just it's the
genius.
1700s,
It's
and
just
if you cough
flowing.
on an infant, then
No, no, no,
cholera
no. I
happens.
meant, like, how he was able to write so much, just
Oh,
constantly,
yeah,
you
yeah. Well,
know,
I
like,
mean,
all
you
sorts of
gotta remember
things.
it's the 1700s. There's fuck all to do. What
Yeah,
do you
you're
do all
just
day?
but also, he
You
just
don't have
sees
to
it.
have a job whenever you're a
N
world
not
famous
not even that,
musician.
but he sees it in his mind, so it's just, like, it's just coming
Yeah,
to him easily, you
he's
know,
like
just
he's like all those other
and also
depictions you've seen of it, where people are literally just angrily writing
but
music notes on pieces of paper, and there's paper everywhere.
AKA Beethoven. But think
Yeah,
about it though, this music doesn't exist, so he's not, like, copying anybody, it's not a thing, so you
he's
have,
just
like,
making it up as he
unlimited
goes.
yeah, you have, like, unlimited fun.
It's like having all of Pro Tools in Ableton in your head. You just make the
Accurate.
shit as you go.
And you can hear it, you can hear it.
You can hear it before you even put all the pieces together. You know exactly what you want it to, and I mean that's kind of what perfect pitch is in a
Well,
sense.
that's also one of the reasons why, Beethoven also went blind is because he was writing so much in candlelight, which is, one of the reasons why
Well, I thought it was
you're
that and the syphilis.
well, that too, but it was his eyesight started dwindling even more because he was constantly writing in
Also, that's
only
the thing
candlelight or
back
no, moonlight,
then.
only in moonlight, which you're not supposed to do. So he didn't like
Yeah.
he, like, had barely any light when he was doing it, and it was fucked his eyes.
Yeah, and that's probably part of the reason why Beethoven, or not Beethoven, but why Mozart died as early as he did. Because like, when you die at 36 and
There's a lot of reasons, you know?
you spend your entire time being in royal courts and you kind of like eating shit.
Yeah,
I mean,
could some sort of
you put two and two together, you
any
probably had
disease,
some form of
literally
something from
anything
eating
could kill you
poop
back then.
or
Anything could kill you back then.
syphilis, because the royal courts were just rampant with syphilis.
Not even just that, but, like, literally anything could kill you.
Yeah.
It's fucking like I said, you cough on an infant coughs on you.
Yeah, and
A
you die. A
little kid,
mosquito bit you and now you died from something that's been extinct
this
for millions of years,
yeah,
but
the simplest, medicines. Some
don't
ibuprofen coulda
exist.
cured him.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, "Oh, man, if only we had
You
discovered
just,
penicillin before the
"Mm, mm,
1940s."
this mercury should cure my headache."
"Ah, what's wrong?" Well, we'll just go ahead and give you some liquid cocaine and call it a day."
"Ooh, you have a sore arm. Let's try bloodletting.
Ugh, let's go ahead and put some leeches on that guy. That
Put
ought to
some leeches
solve
on
it.
your penis. That should solve your brain
That'll
problems."
solve the swelling. His health
Eh,
began to fail and his work rate slowed in 1790. He got better though, and in 1791 alone composed the most famous, the Magic Flute, the Requiem, which he never finished, and the Clarinetto
Clarinetto.
and the Clarinet Concerto. On concluding the Magic Flute, Mozart turned to work on what was his last project, the Requiem. This mass had been commissioned by a benefactor said to have been unknown to Mozart, and he is supposed to have become obsessed with the belief that he was, in effect, writing it for himself. Ill and exhausted, he managed to finish the first two movements and sketches for several more, but the last three sections were entirely lacking. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart died in Vienna in 1791, just before his 36th birthday. He was 35 and died. Bruh.
From
35?
from multiple things.
Like, even back then, 35 is not that old.
Well, remember when we were we've been rewatching The Nick.
Oh,
It's on
yeah.
HBO if you
Where
guys
you're,
haven't. They're like, "The we're living now to the age of 47."
yeah, they're getting excited because the average age is raised to 47.
1920s ass. Jesus.
At the time of
1910s, technically, 1910s.
At the time of his death, Mozart was widely regarded not only as the greatest composer of the time, but also as a bold and difficult one. Especially was seen as complex and dissonant, and his chamber music as calling for outstanding skill in its interpreters. The traditional image of a child prodigy turned refined drawing room composer who could miraculously conceive an entire work in his head before ever setting pen to paper. Always a distortion of the truth. What?
That's
Okay.
accurate, you know? Like, whatever he wrote, it's probably what wasn't really going on in his actual head. Like, think about that. He could only put pen to paper so quickly.
Right, exactly.
Think
So
about, like,
you've got so many thoughts going on at once.
all
You've
these
got the
notes
whole
you're
thing figured
seeing,
out.
you're, like, hearing the melody, like, you hear Mozart's music, and you're like, "Wow, that's, like, insane that was this time. How amazing, beautiful." And then you think about, like, what notes he was missing because he couldn't write fast enough. It's crazy. Couldn't write those fucking notes fast enough. It's insane. Couldn't play it fast enough. Or you're playing it and then you forget what you just played, so you have to, like, come up with something else in the place of it. Yeah. There's so many ways that could have, kinda missed out, you know what I mean? There's some little things we missed out on.
This gave way to the image of the serious and painstaking creative artist with acute human insight, whose complex psychology demanded exploration by writers, historians, and scholars. No matter how beloved and world renowned a person can be, one of the most famous musical composers of all time loved a good poop joke, tongue punch in a fart box, and shitting on those he loved.
That he did, that he did. Oh, I hope you guys learned something today. Stoney, did you learn something today?
I learned once again by the same judgment I had the last time we talked about this that I think poop fetishes are fucking dumb. So that's my 2 cents and
That's your 2
takeaway.
cents of the entire thing.
Yep,
You know
yep.
what mine was? His full
What?
fucking name.
Yeah,
His goddamn
he's got a
Johannes
long name.
Chrysostomus Wolfgang Amadeus Theophilus Mozart. That fucking did y'all know that? I didn't know that until I
I
did
didn't
this.
know he had 8 names.
I didn't either. I also think my favorite part in the letter was when God, I gotta read it again because it's so funny. When he
Or just
says
keep
that
saying muck, 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 muck.
that I think that's Stoney's fave. My favorite one is the one where he goes, "The only thing I regret is that I can't stay with you and fondle your butt, kiss your hand, and shoot off my gun in your butt."
Yeah, I want to shoot my gun in your
You're
bum, in your
Yeah.
arse.
No, he said, "I will then inspect you front to rear. I will take you all around, and if necessary, will enfold you. The only thing I regret is that I can't stay with you. Will fondle your
Enfold.
arse, kiss your hands, shoot off my gun in your rear, embrace you, and fold you back and front." I love that.
Hold you back in front.
I love that. I love that. The shoot shoot off my gun in your rear.
Yeah, that's something.
God, so he's gonna be walking around the house and he's gonna come up behind me and whisper in my ear, "I'm gonna
Hey, let me
shoot
shoot my gun off in your rear.
you." Here's a new phrase, guys. Fuck.
Yeah, that's dirty talk right there.
Yeah.
Top tier.
So if you guys are ever getting touchy feely with your a partner and or your significant other and or just a random human, feel free to use some of this
Or
dirty
yourself.
talk. Or yourself, yeah, or yourself. Feel free to use some of this dirty talk. I hope you guys learned some new lingo because I think it will definitely if you say a little poetry and a little style of Mozart's letters, maybe you might get laid. Send that
Maybe.
text. Send that risky text. This is what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Mozart
make
was out
sure
here sending letters.
make sure if you send a risky text, you say you want to shoot your gun in their rear.
Not even that, but the fact that these are letters that Mozart didn't think everyone was just gonna keep, and here we are in the 21st century talking about them, reading them, right? Right?
Correct.
That
Correct.
that risky text doesn't matter. Send it. Send that risky text. No one's gonna read that except for the person that you're sending it to. Your Mozart is public letters. All right. If you want to read more of Mozart's letters, literally just look up Mozart scat letters, and you can read the full things. These are just some of the passages from it, but the full things are crazy. Like I said, there's 39 of them that mention poop, that
Poo-poo.
mention
Poo-poo.
farts. He loved farts. I will say that was like one. It mentions it a lot in the movie as well, and like in the plays that Amadeus is about. But the fart jokes in that movie are consistent. But he really loved farts, I think about it now. If he enjoyed scat, he probably had a farting fetish too.
100%.
He probably loved, like, come here. I want you to fart in my mouth. Let me eat that fart.
He was a fart eater.
Delicious. Beef stew. Delicious. Nom 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 nom. Okay, well, I think that wraps up our Sexual Deviants of History, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart episode. I hope you guys
believe so.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and you learned something new, had some giggles, some laughs. Feel free to tell us your favorite parts because I thoroughly enjoy reading y'all's messages about things that you relate to in each episode, or like you guys tell me stories. Trust me, I read them. Don't worry. Me or Stony read them. Technically, one of us will read them, and it's always a fun little giggle for us because you guys are always like, "I like this part," or something in your life relates to what we were talking about. Um, but yeah, other than that, what an episode! What a stink-filled episode.
Stink filled.
Stinky boy. You know what? When you come to think about it, since everything was stinky, he was having a great time the entire everywhere.
Yeah,
Like,
everything smelled like shit, so he was always just
he was like,
he was
just
this
rock
dude was
hard.
this dude was bricked up the entire time he was writing these
Sympathies,
sympathies,
symphonies, symphonies.
symphonic works of art.
Oh my god, yeah. So he's like walking outside, bricked.
Bricked up, thinking about like clarinets and shit.
Ooh yeah. Then he's gonna
Oh
go.
God, let me put that clarinet in your butt and shit it out.
Let me put the clarinet bell in your ass
Let me
and let me
blow a
blow
clarinet in your
into
butt.
it. Oh my god,
Let me
absolutely.
play some notes into your
Here,
butthole.
put this at this one time at band camp. That's Mozart.
He would love all the weird things that you see on the internet, like girls getting, golf balls putted into their buttholes. He would love that.
Oh my god,
He
imagine.
would love that.
Oh my god, imagine someone fucking Mozart modern day anal porn.
You're
Holy
telling me
shit.
you're telling me that I can put a croquet mallet in someone's ass.
You're telling me that this 42-inch dildo fits all the way up into somebody?
Inside of them. Yep,
And they
100%.
pull it out, no problem?
Yep, and then it just goes back to normal, like nothing happened.
You're telling me that this guy put a whole jar up his ass?
You mean to tell me this guy put a jar in his ass and then proceeded to break it?
And there's blood? That's a new thing I haven't discovered.
Yeah, that would just be right up that alley
my
for him.
God. I had to say the jar joke.
Yeah,
I had to.
always. If there's ever an opportunity to make a one guy one jar reference, I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it. All right, folks. Stony, where could the good scat fetish people find you?
Nowhere, and you can fuck off and die.
Don't say that.
Anyway,
Don't say
for all
that.
the other people out there who don't like poo poo play, you can find me everywhere at Stony Robbins or at Stony Robbins _. And all the poo poo people can go find Conway. Where can they find you at?
All the poo-poo people can come find me at conwaytitty.com. That is Conway, TITTY.com. That is where you can find all of my stuff. I don't do poo-poo play. But if you are a poo-poo person, come spend your
Gross.
monies on me anyways.
Gross.
I will not do the poo-poo play, but if that's
You
your
can dream.
fetish,
You
you
can
can
dream.
we can fantasize and you can tell me all about your fantasies and message me those on my platforms. Paying platforms only. Do not message me your fucking fantasies in my fucking Instagram DMs, you crazy people. All right. I think that's all. We'll see you guys on the next episode.
All right, bye, shitheads.
Literally shitheads. Take care, get some sleep, stay hydrated, and we'll see you later. All right. Bye-bye.